always do that. I'm a night rider. Every time that I call past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.
What is going on, bookworms, and welcome back to yet another edition of Bookmarks with Bump, the 72nd edition. That is a mighty big number. I was looking at that in the notes before I decided to record today, and I thought, what a monumental moment. We've made it 72 weeks. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive indeed. And what is Bookmarks with Bump? Well, if you're a first-time listener, first of all, I'd like to thank you for listening. Secondly, Bookmarks with Bump is a social commentary podcast of sorts, where we go over pretty much basically anything, but we try to stay in my realm of expertise, okay, as being a medaled endurance runner and a certified tradesman in the state of Connecticut, as well as a certified personal trainer by the National Academy of Sports Medicine. I've deemed myself somewhat of a conduit of knowledge in the pathways of fitness, goal setting, determination, and life overall. I mean, I really haven't determined myself a conduit of knowledge. In all honesty, I'm just vomiting from the mouth here, but we go over all of these things, and I give my little take on it because why not? So we'll dive right in. I did do the dry needling last week, and man, let me tell you something. It feels like two thumbs being dug into your muscle and spread apart inside of your muscle. It is, oh, what a feeling. I don't really know how to describe it, but I feel like I'm on the mend, doing much better after even just that one session. We're going to continue with that. I felt relieved a lot in my calf and in my soleus area. Nah, I haven't returned to running yet. All right, so quit asking. You'll know when I'm back. Believe me, you'll know. I'll make everybody aware. Just like I'm planning on making everybody aware right now of where we sit with our record. We have boosted ourselves, just as I determined. Now, I did attempt to go flawless last week. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. It was just as big as a letdown for all of you as it is for me, because no, I didn't win the work pool. I was off by one game. Somebody happened to go 13-2, and I went 12-3, boosting our record here to a 24-13 record on the season, on the 2025 season. That has been a wicked and wild ride. It all started on Thursday night. The Unk Bowl, the Icy Hot Bowl, the proverbial Grandpa Bowl, the Retirement Home Bowl, the Convalescent Bowl, where 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers faced off against 40-year-old Joe Flacco in an AFC North battle between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And man, did Jamar Chase make these old dogs run all night. The Bengals busted out and shook up the Steelers. Jamar Chase had an incredible game, breaking the Bengals record for receptions and targets in a game. He had 16 receptions on 23 targets. Okay, the quarterback. Listen, there's been a lot of games, even in this past week, where quarterbacks have completed 19 to 23 passes. One receiver had 23 targets. Between Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, they had 33 targets, and that's just two. Joe Flacco had one heck of a game. Chase Brown really helped out in the run game here and open things up for the Bengals, which hadn't happened all season. I don't know what it was about Joe Flacco that just invigorated the Cincinnati Bengals, but they came out a much different team than they had in the two previous showings with Jake Browning, and it looks like they could be on the in the hunt for the AFC North if they really picked apart the Steelers the way they did. A lot of it was just the veteran craft of Joe Flacco, knowing when to check out of a run play. The Steelers were sending a lot of pressure, 8 men in the box, preparing for the run, and Jamar Chase just became a slant merchant. He got these quick, short passes out because he knew that the coverage was hot, and Jamar Chase was in one-on-one against somebody who's significantly older than him. So You can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I guess you can't make him run as fast as the pup is. I don't know what to say about Jamar Chase's performance, but it was it was not what the Steelers were expecting. It was not what I was expecting. This Bengals offensive line had just been horrendous all season, and then they have an all-time showing against TJ Watt. What is up with that? I don't know. Trevor Lawrence made his 7th start in London in a rainy game against the Rams. Okay, the rain was coming down, but that did not affect the style of play at all. There weren't that many turnovers. As a matter of fact, the first play of the game was a sack for Jared Verse, and the Rams continued to smother Trevor Lawrence, forcing 2 consecutive 3-and-outs and allowing 2 meticulous Matthew Stafford drives where he threw a touchdown to someone Rich Eisen clearly didn't know. And then he threw another touchdown to Devontae Adams. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter, and they really never looked back. This was just a Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay masterclass. It seemed like McVay knew everything that Liam Cohen wanted to try to do to him. Stafford moved down the field using the entire armory of the Rams receivers. As long as Puka Nacua had been on the team, Matthew Stafford did not perform well without him on the field. He draws a lot of attention. He catches a lot of balls and gets a lot of targets. But without Puka in the mix, the Rams looked just fine. The Jags were crushed by penalties. And once they finally got in the scoring position, early there in the game, they missed a field goal. And the momentum was just clearly in the Rams' direction. They flew in and flew out, and Matthew Stafford threw for 5 touchdowns. So chalk that up to a new strategy, how to handle these international games with just 1 day of travel. Chalk this up, a new strategy. Why don't you just go to jail when you start your season? Because if you come back later, when you really look like you're needed, you'll just score 2 touchdowns. Because that's what Rashid Rice did. He broke out early. See what I did there? 2 touchdowns in the game that buried the Raiders' 31-0 defeat. This Pete Carroll and Geno Smith experiment is starting to crash and burn here. It added insult to injury when Andy Reid decided to start kneeling the ball out with Gardner Minshew in the game with about 2 minutes and 36 seconds left on the clock. So that says all that says about the game there. The Chiefs, they stomped on the Raiders, which is something that they should have done. The Raiders are a poopy team. As we talked about before, beating the teams that you should. This didn't seem like one where the Chiefs were kind of taking a step back, though. Sometimes you'll notice that the Chiefs will play to their competition. They did not decide to do that, and they had a fun trick play, I guess, where Pat Mahomes got to scream on national television and gave Tony Romo a good chuckle. So that was nice. Another thing that was nice was A.J. Brown in the locker room after catching 2 touchdowns. He gets 2 touchdowns as the Eagles bounce back, and Jalen Hurts throws for 326 yards and 3 touchdowns, including one to Devontae Smith. As a matter of fact, his longest touchdown of his career, a 79-yard lightning strike from the Slim Reaper there. Did the Eagles offense look entirely better? No, but Jalen Hurts had his best game outside of a Super Bowl performance, so this is a great thing to see. The passing game really getting it together, but what is going on with Saquon Barkley? Those offensive line woes need to get cleaned up in Philadelphia, and Minnesota needs to clean some things up as well. I mean, they are playing with a backup quarterback, but I really thought Carson Wentz would really step up here and give us something to cheer for. He got absolutely demolished by Jalen Carter and threw a pick, so odds are he's starting Thursday. J.J. McCarthy not back on the field yet, and we'll see what he has to offer then. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about how the Patriots decided to come down to Tennessee and start flat. Why would they do that? Why would they let the Titans score first? Is this a brand new Titans team? With a new head coach at the helm, is the offense getting more simplified for Cam Ward? Or is Drake May just waiting to put on a masterful 2-minute drill to find booty in the end zone? Where else do you need it? Right before halftime. And then it just turned into Drake May and a Ramondre Stevenson just finding every hole in the defense that they could. He threw two incompletions in this game. Drake May did. He went 21 for 23 on 222 yards and a touchdown in the game, which was a 91% completion rate and the highest in Patriots franchise history. Now, is that a next-gen stat pad stat? I'm not too sure. But what does make me feel is extremely optimistic for the Patriots in their future for the next 15, 20 years. Um, I got to enjoy 6 Super Bowls in my adolescence, young adulthood, and now I'm looking forward to enjoying many, many more in my moonlighting years. So thank you, Drake May, for existing. You saved my life. Tua threw 3 picks, and Dolphins fans hate themselves again. The Browns crushed the Dolphins. Quinshon Judkins ran in 3 touchdowns, notching his best performance yet as a rookie on this roller coaster of a Browns team. But the Browns defense just put the clamps on Tua and made him look like an SEC quarterback swimming in the Crimson Tide. Justin Fields, a Big Ten quarterback, was sacked 3 times and benched. J.C. Horn picked off Tyrod Taylor twice. The Panthers just smothered the Jets in this game. It was a slow, grinding game that was not fun or exciting to watch. But it just turned into a field. Wow. Sorry. It just turned into a field goal kicking contest where Xavier Legette accidentally caught a touchdown. And Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle split carries to gain 110 yards on the ground, as Carolina extends into a 3-game winning streak, and the Jets remain winless, 0-7 this far into the season. Will Aaron Glenn keep his job all year? I don't know. The highlight of his career so far is the emphatic stomping down the sideline, which I love to see a coach fired up. I really, really do. You got to win, though. You got to put something together here. Your team looks like crayons on a construction paper. Let's not be so elementary here. DeAndre Swift and rookie Kyle Monangai, or is it Monangai? Kyle Monangai, that sounds better. Either way, they combined to cover 205 yards against the Saints. They were marching all over them. I said the Saints would go marching in, and the Saints got marched on. DeAndre Swift went for like 120 yards, while Monangai notched 80 and a touchdown. Great rookie performance out of the kid. The Bears' running game really helped them keep them in it. Caleb Williams, not the best performance through an interception, but it really wasn't the best performance for Spencer Rattler on the other side. Although he is an electric factory, the kid's a gunslinger. He threw 3 picks, and the Bears nabbed the win over the Saints in a Dennis Allen revenge game. The defense really showing out for their defensive coordinator over there after getting fired from the New Orleans Saints. And revenge is a dish best served on the gridiron. The Colts, they might be the best team on the gridiron in the NFL. Jonathan Taylor had his third 3-touchdown season. Wow, this is a lot. Listen to this. Jonathan Taylor had his third 3-touchdown game already, bringing his total to 10 this season. The Colts defense nabbed another 2 picks in this game, where the Chargers suffered from their own faults. They covered 400 yards in the air, but they turned the ball over in the penalties again, and again, and again. They keep shooting themselves in the foot. I talk about it week in and week out with the Chargers. They got to really buckle up and get disciplined here, because their defense was looking dominant. Granted, they've been hurt by injuries. They're dwindling slowly. And the season is only starting to ramp up. It made it easy with the way that they perform. The way they perform carelessly, without discipline, it makes them easy for an elite team, which is seemingly what this Indianapolis Colts squad is bringing out there. It makes it easy for them to notch another win. Now, this is something. This is an all-time flop. The Broncos dropped 33 points in the fourth quarter. And they eliminated the Giants. I mean, anything the Giants felt before this game, during this game, at the end of this game, it's all gone. Any semblance of a Giants feeling is just dust in the wind at this point. It was 19-0 going into the fourth quarter, and the Giants just completely collapsed, choosing to play conservatively, and Bo Nix sliced and diced his way to throw 2 touchdowns during the comeback. Look at this graphic. Do you see that? Let's go through this, because we know going into the fourth, it was 19-0. Okay? Then 52 seconds into the fourth quarter, the Broncos score. They score a touchdown, and they go for the 2-point conversion. They need every point they can get, and they nail it. They get it. Okay. Fast forward to 4 minutes later, the Giants then score another touchdown. So it's worse now for the Broncos. It's 26-8. 26-8, 10-14 on the clock, left in the fourth quarter. The Broncos go on a 5-minute drive and score another 8 points. The Giants get the ball back. They do nothing with it. The Broncos then get the ball back and end up scoring again, and now it's 23-26 with 3:51 left in the game. The Giants get the ball, do nothing with it. The Broncos score again. This time they take the lead. It's 30-26 with 1:51 left on the clock. The Giants get the ball. Jackson Dart has the drive of his life. They go down and they score. They score a touchdown. Bam, 32-30 with 37 seconds left on the clock in the fourth quarter. But what does Bo Nix do? Bo Nix moves the ball just enough to get Will Lutz in the field goal range, and they kick a game-winning field goal to end the game 33-30. Triple zeros on the clock. What a comeback by the Broncos. What a complete lawn chair fold by the by the Giants. And somebody check on Scattaboo. The Packers, they flew into Phoenix late, and they still managed to win behind Micah's 3 sacks, Josh Jacobs, and Tucker Kraft. Those were the 3 stars for the Packers out there on the field. Jacoby Brissett had the Cardinals buzzing early and late. He threw a Hail Mary at the end of the game. That's somewhat questionable. I didn't really look too much into it. However, Jacoby Brissett looking like a guy there. Jacoby Brissett is looking like a guy there in Arizona, and who knows? Is Kyler going to ride the bench for a little bit? This team looks a little bit better right now. They're not losing as bad. Get Kyler back in there and spin it. I don't know why all this talk is going on, but the Cowboys then hung 40 in Jerry World. And some of those points came by way of the defense. This was probably the best defense and probably the biggest surprise on the slate, as the Cowboys offense destroyed Washington, and Jaden Daniels finds his way into the infirmary yet again. It was a bad roll up he got called into question on, and prayers up to Jaden. Hopefully he doesn't miss too much time, because he's an electrifying player to watch, but the Cowboys had him locked up. This was surprising. Not so much that the Cowboys scored 44 points, but that the defense of the Cowboys held up so well. Although, we are missing pieces as far as the Washington Commanders go. They're not trotting their whole offense out there right now. But you would think against the defense that the Cowboys had been showing, they must have had a good talking to. Dak Prescott, he's playing at a phenomenal level. He's right up there as an MVP candidate, I think. He's notching his 4th game this season with 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, which is 1 away from tying the record as far as those games in a season goes. He's 1 under Russell Wilson, of all folks, with 5. I think Dak Prescott is they like I said, they need to score 60 points a week in order to win this season, and it seems easy for them to be able to put up points. The Cowboys are a team to watch looking forward, and Dak Prescott is no spring chicken. He's been out there. He's a veteran in this game. He's one hell of a player. So Another guy who's one hell of a player is George Kittle, who made an immediate impact in his return, helping create lanes for CMC to go over for 200 yards from scrimmage. He rushed for over 120 alone against what was talked about last week as a tough Falcons defense. The 49ers edge out just enough plays to take a 20-10 victory in what seemed to be the most boring primetime game of the season thus far, although Christian McCaffrey is always fun to watch. So is Bijan Robinson, but the 49ers defense kind of just rallying around Fred Warner up there in the suite, just egging everybody on, collecting the most aura ever collected by man. The Lions. MCDC, dude. Talk about aura. If martial law were to ever take place, it would probably be MCDC who ends up the first person held captive. That guy could power any militia to take on any army. He worked a miracle here as the Lions smothered the Bucs, who lost Mike Evans again in this game on a deep ball. He came down hard on his knees, ended up breaking his collarbone, suffering a concussion. But even with all their secondary missing and half of their backups, they still had that mentality spread through the defense, and they locked up the Bucs receivers and made it hard for Baker Mayfield to do his job out there. They secured the win at home, and the Bucs take another L, which they now moved to 5-2. So I mean, it's oh no, that's their third loss. They're 4-3. So that's not the greatest spot to be. However, they still lead the NFC North by a wide margin. So NFC South, sorry. And then the last game on the slate, just as I had predicted, the Seahawks defense reminded the Texans what the NFL was like. Meanwhile, Jackson Smith-Njigba gets another 100-yard game and is the first receiver this season to surpass 800 yards. He leads the league right now, and the Texans just couldn't get anything going on the ground. While the Seahawks backfield combined for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns, allowing them to cap Week 7 with a win at home in Lumen Stadium, which is a hard field to play on. It gets loud up there. Seattle is one nasty environment, and Sam Darnold is thriving right now. Love to see the resurgence of Sam Darnold. Hate to see the fall off seemingly here of CJ Stroud after that sophomore slump. There's not really a reemergence in the Texans offense. Just looks terrible. He was their leading rusher with 20 yards. They have no run game going. They lose Nico Collins in this game. The Texans have a lot of issues that they need to solve moving forward here. And moving forward here, we're moving right into Week 8. So last week, we had a great time picking the whole slate, and we'll do that just again, you and I together, sitting down, doing the work pool. What's going to win us the cash this week? Well, Thursday night we start off in Los Angeles with the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Last week, the Minnesota Vikings, they ended up getting contentious with the Eagles late in that game there, but I didn't see much out of Minnesota that made me seem like there's a lot of promise there. Their defensive secondary, what seemed to be the best asset on their team, got chopped up by the Eagles, which passing hadn't been their strong point going into that game. Passing is the strong point of the Chargers. Justin Herbert is a dog out there, and my back is on the Chargers here, needing a get-back win here, real bad. So we move on to Miami, which has become the laughingstock heading into Atlanta. Atlanta needs a get-back win here. They have the perfect team right here with a soft defense and a quarterback who's extremely vulnerable. Can we get a Jesse Bates interception in this game? Yes. I'm predicting so. The New York Jets head into Cincinnati, and the brand new Joe Flacco-led Bengals are the favorites over New York, and seemingly so. I think a touchdown might be not a little bit disrespectful here to the Bengals. Did you see what they just did to the Steelers? However, the New York Jets had a close game with the Steelers, and so did Cincinnati. So this will probably just be another close game. The Cincinnati Bengals will win, though. I think they're really feeling themselves after that Thursday night win. They've had a little bit of extra rest here. It's somewhat like a mini bye for the players coming off of a Thursday night game into the next week. So they're a little bit more well rested, and the Jets are in a lot more disarray with 2 quarterbacks at the position right now who are not top tier against somebody who's won a Super Bowl. So let's give the championship edge to the Cincinnati here, where we have one that's making me go, I will blindly give my allegiance to the New England Patriots every time. That is my pick with complete transparency so far. The New England Patriots are my pick in this game. However, I am worried about this game. It's a great way to be upset here. Just a Cleveland team that's wandering around the league, just smashing everything they see in front of them. Whether the hit is effective or not is up to the person they're hitting. That's pretty much the team we're playing right now, so it's pretty much all about how the Patriots respond. We responded well last week against the Titans. I wouldn't like to see myself down to the Cleveland Browns, though. They do have a much better defense, a much better defensive line. Unless, all right, I'm not going to. Shout out to Jeffrey Simmons. The New York Giants get another chance at a win against Philadelphia here. Now, Philadelphia has the edge. They are at home. But they just seemed to be demoralized by the Giants a couple weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. And that makes me wonder about this game. The Eagles looked okay against the Vikings. I wouldn't say they look complete yet. They don't look like the championship team they had out there on the field last year. Um, but this Giants team just had the all-time collapse. Uh, and I think they showed a lot of vulnerabilities in that collapse. And if that's the case, I'm hoping Philadelphia is putting an emphasis on this game, which they are, and these Johns are going to get it done in Philly. Give me the Eagles. Then you have Buffalo at Carolina. Buffalo coming in off a bye. Teams are 4-2 this season coming in off a bye. However, Buffalo, they had a tough loss against Atlanta, and Josh Allen was extremely frustrated. Carolina, as they are a budding defense, well, no, they're a good defense and a budding offense. I do think Buffalo has the pieces in place to take care of a team like this. They need a win right now, and if they want to go into the AFC playoff and make a run, this is a team they have to beat. So I'm giving it to who needs it. Chicago at Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, he didn't practice today. And today is Tuesday. Now, when this comes out, it's Sunday morning, and I won't know all the information. However, what I do know is that Baltimore does not look like itself. It looks like a culture shift has taken place. And they are getting mollywopped by teams. They did have a better defensive showing against the Rams, but the Rams also just couldn't get it done in the red zone. Will Chicago get into the red zone and take some shots? Will they get through the red zone by taking shots? I think with Caleb Williams in this gunslinging role, with this Ben Johnson offense, has everything he needs to get over the Baltimore secondary and get a surprising but firm win here in Baltimore. I'm going with Chicago. San Francisco at Houston. San Francisco, I don't even have to say anything. It doesn't have to be Brock Purdy. It doesn't even have to be Mac Jones. Just put CMC behind the center, and he will run all over this Houston defense. However, the Houston defense doesn't seem to be quite the issue. The thing for me is really just their offense has no real consistency. Their offense has no real identity, and I don't know what they're trying to do out there. So if I don't know what they're trying to do out there, they might not know what they're trying to do out there, and they could be a little bit lost. Or they could be exactly where they need to be. I'm thinking of a tide switch here. This is a game that Houston needs to win. San Francisco is down on receivers. Houston has to win. They're down on sticking with San Francisco. The 49ers take the win here. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. Now this could be an upset, but I don't think it will be. Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers are fired up after the Monday night game. They do seem to feel like they had been slighted by the referees in that game. I can't say that I completely agree, but I can't say that I completely disagree either. Were they taken out of it? Not necessarily. But were there some shady calls? Yeah, absolutely. But New Orleans just doesn't have what they need to win a game, especially against a tough division rival. Yeah, Tampa Bay. Dallas at Denver. Dallas at Denver is actually a tough one here. I'm looking at Dallas and what their offense is bringing, and they seem pretty complete with Javonte Williams last week going over 100 yards. And then on the other side, sorry, I almost said Devontae Adams, but CeeDee Lamb, one of the best receivers in the game. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens playing together in harmony. It seems like they want to win. And Denver kind of has these ups and downs. Their offense isn't always clicking right away. Bo Nix is having some growing pains, but their defense is very, very elite. They're going to make it hard for Dak to set his feet, but Dak is so good on the run too, which makes it tough to say or pick against either one of these teams. But Denver does have an edge here at home in Mile High Stadium, and I just think their defense will take care of Dak. And whether listen, Dak's going to make some crazy throws in this game, and it's not going to be all about Dak. I think it's more about how they'll be able to shut down the run a little bit and just they're going to edge out a win here. Tennessee and Indianapolis. Tennessee is flailing their way through this season here. They might have a couple highlight plays this game, but they're not going to do enough to win it. And then you have Green Bay at Pittsburgh. Sunday Night Football. The Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers, former team, visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers to play him and his new team. Check out the new digs. This is a tough game to pick from because both of these teams have kind of been hailed as one thing or another already at some point this season. After Pittsburgh went into their bye 4-1, you looked at them and said, "Oh, this team is really humming. This team is hot." In Green Bay, they were talked about in the offseason like, "Hey, this team might make a run here," and both of them are kind of surprising us with their performances throughout this season. The Packers had a really close one with the Arizona Cardinals. And it's tough to say what Pittsburgh's defense is. Yes, they are the highest paid defense in the league, but are they the best? Is their secondary holding up the way that we imagine them to? There are a lot of questions here to go over with Pittsburgh, and I think a lot of that will be exposed in this game because they're playing yet another young receiving core. Matthew Golden, Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft is emerging as a star tight end in this league, but is Green Bay equipped with enough firepower to take on Pittsburgh? They do have Josh Jacobs, and I can just imagine them running the ball a lot and making their way up and down that field. I think the Green Bay Packers have an edge here, and I think the Green Bay Packers have enough to win. The secondary of Pittsburgh is questionable to me. Are the players that they brought in a little bit too old to compete? Are we on a pipe dream? And hey, whatever. If I lose this one, I'm glad the Steelers upset me because I would love to see some more success out of the enigma who is Aaron Rodgers. And then Monday Night Football, you have the Washington Commanders who really need to get one here, heading into Kansas City and playing the Chiefs. This for me is the Chiefs. Right now, the last few games the Chiefs have played, it's kind of showing, okay, we're still the Chiefs. We're still dominant, and we can just pull things. We have tricks up our sleeve, if you will. And the Commanders are looking like they'll be without Jaden Daniels for next week, maybe a little bit longer. It's not too clear if it's a knee or a hamstring at this point. However, I don't see him playing on Monday, which is going to make it a little bit easier for the Kansas City defense, and it's going to make it a little bit harder for that offense, which is slowly losing everything that they put money on to put points on the board. And that's what we got. Those are our, what is it? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams on bye, so that takes away 3 games. That's our 13 picks, and hopefully these aren't our 13 reasons why. One of the reasons why I do a podcast is probably because I listen to podcasts, and when you listen to podcasts, you kind of get away from the news and everything that goes on in it. And I guess I had these threads bookmarked from a while ago, and maybe I just wanted to come in and get fired up. So I don't know if you guys are into Substack or anything like that, where you can read freelance journalists and things that they talk about, but Kim.com put out this little thread here that was important for us to pay attention to. And it's what the United States government did to Ukraine. The 2014 coup, with the help of the Nazis and CIA snipers, endless propaganda and lies, breaches of the Minsk Accords, murder of 15,000 ethnic Russians in Donbass, provoking war with Russia via NATO, expansion with plans to station nuclear-capable missiles 400 kilometers from Moscow, arrogantly ignoring Russia's warnings to back off, acting surprised when Russia invaded Ukraine unprovoked, blowing up the Nord Stream pipelines in an act of international terrorism, unleashing thousands of sanctions against Russia to force regime change unsuccessfully, bankrupting Ukraine with loans and by wrecking the Ukrainian economy, ripping off the U.S. tax base and paying the military-industrial complex for sending old, ineffective arms stockpiles to Ukraine, causing millions of Ukrainians to flee to Europe, falsely promising Ukraine unwavering support for as long as it takes, preventing a peace agreement with Russia, causing 600,000 plus Ukrainians to die in a U.S. proxy war, losing 20% of Ukrainian territory and 10 trillion of proven natural resources to Russia, controlling Western mainstream media and lying to the world by falsely claiming that Ukraine is winning and that Russia is about to fold, using EU politicians as puppets who sold out and will never win re-election, deindustrializing this is the deindustrialization of Europe and luring gas-dependent industries with unfair subsidies to the U.S., costing EU taxpayers 120 plus billion for funding a U.S. proxy war and causing trillions in future economic losses for the EU. Getting Germany to send tanks to kill Russians after the Soviets sacrificed 27 million people in World War II to stop Adolf Hitler. Getting Putin charged for war crimes by the Western-funded International Criminal Court, and then backing an actual genocide by Israeli and Palestinian by Israel against Palestinian civilians. My God, blaming Ukraine for the failed counteroffensive instead of admitting that the Pentagon war simulations are garbage. Preventing diplomacy, because peace in a neutral Ukraine would be a victory for Russia and destroying Biden's re-election chances. Laundering money via Ukraine to U.S. and Ukrainian politicians, the list goes on and on. Don't even get me started about the millions of people the U.S. government killed by funding the creation of COVID-19 and unsafe vaccines. Are you supporting the United States government, a U.S. deep state, which controls politicians in all parties, the judiciary, and big tech? Are you supporting the Pentagon propaganda machine, the U.S. censorship machine, and the Five Eyes mass surveillance regime that constantly collects every bit of data about you? Are you supporting the U.S.-led NATO war machine, chaos by design, global deception, and mass murder? Did you know that the United States government has killed over 20 million people in 37 victim nations since World War II? That doesn't include any deaths by sanctions and COVID-19. Is your nation and are your politicians backing endless U.S. wars, theft, and crimes against humanity? What happened in Ukraine is your wake-up call. These are all our wake-up calls. This may be your last chance to rise against the evildoers and their corrupt system. Soon X and Elon Musk will be forced to comply with censorship, which is slowly starting to happen, or be destroyed, and you will have to look for posts like this in this anonymous corner of the internet. If you fail to act, World War III is more likely than not, and 99% of humanity would vanish. This isn't fear-mongering. You need to understand why the U.S. started the proxy war with Russia. If the U.S. government can't stop the growing multipolar order spearheaded by Russia and China, or the de-dollarization in international trade, the U.S. will simply collapse because it will no longer be able to print money on the backs of other nations, which use the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency. Printing trillions of dollars was the only way for the U.S. government to stay afloat, turning the markets into Ponzi scheme and managing a unsustainable and rapidly increasing debt burden. Those days are numbered. But wait, there's more. This is going to be an awesome, crazy, fun week. Did you know that the Shriners Hospital for Children in Washington just informed the judge that they had the right to use the EAU label, as though it were licensed because Comirnaty was approved by the FDA. And so it somehow approved the unlicensed use of the IND. In the grown-up world, this is a most severe violation of misbranding drug laws under 21 U.S.C. Moreover, they flat out stated that the nurses could have just gone out and received the Comirnaty, whatever. They could have received the drug to comply with the policy. This form of lying is called a desperate attempt to escape liability. Guess what? Pfizer just informed the CDC that they never manufactured the original formulation and never would. And we have that documentation because the CDC made it public way back when. Guess what again? On the same day that the FDA approved the drug, the FDA also issued another letter. The FDA scrubbed from the net, but we have it, that Shriners could not treat the AAU drug any differently after the drug was approved than before it was approved. The state and Shriners were both notified of the fact. Therefore, it does not matter what the FDA did with the drug. It only matters what the FDA told the Shriners to do with the EAU drug, which was to inform the nurses of their lawful authority to refuse the drug without consequence. Did Shriners inform the nurses of that right? No. And that is why they are all hoping the court will accept a lie in place of the truth. But should that occur, then knock knock on heaven's doors. Oh, that's funny. But should that occur, then knock knock on heaven's doors, which in that case is the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, where the big boys play fundamental law. The FDA said, hey, everything stayed the same with the EAU drug, even though we approved the other drug. So don't you change anything about it. Now they want the courts to rewind history and make some edits to the timeline. The nurses' lawyers refuse to budge an inch and will make the Shriners prove every dot and title of their legal fiction. Which hopefully is what took place. Which is the games that they play. This is an example of all of the games that they play. We put other countries at risk. I love being an American. The rights that we have as an American are one of a kind. It is an extremely free place to live. It is a land of true opportunity. Where else could you find somebody who was a person like who I was, a drug addict who took advantage of people? Where else could you find a place that allows that person to learn from what they have done and change in extreme ways? I feel like I give back more than I take, and I feel weird taking these days. I wouldn't be able to do that in a lot of places. I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't an American. I love to be an American. That doesn't mean that I love to be a governmental. I'm not governmental. I don't think one side is better than the other side. I think both sides show plenty of reasons why nobody should be able to watch over everybody. We need to be able to watch over each other. And that's what examples of this are. This is giving you the facts. And what does everything else do? They try to feed you things to make you feel comfortable. They try to hide the truth from you. And that's just not how life should be. That's not how you should lead. That's not how we should be led. And that's something to really think about as a society, as a civilization. Will we be led this way? Because this way of being led is actually being misled. And I don't think that that's something that's sustainable. I don't think that's something that'll last. And I think that's something that a lot more people are clued into now these days than they ever were before, which is shocking for the older generation to take that in and believe it. They still want to believe what the people on the TV tell them, and they still want to believe that the government has our best interests in mind. But you can't trust a group of people to take care of a group of people if they're willing to destroy a group of people to get themselves what they want. When you look at proxy wars in this nature, it is extremely selfish of a country to do. Taking advantage of your taxpayers and also taking advantage of an area where other people live, where other people try to do what we do here, and just using it as a playground to destroy lives is not a way that I would like my government to operate. I would not like my government to be a place where administrations that are federally branded, I guess you could say, or part of the government in any way, be able to bend the truth in order to avoid accountability. Accountability is really something that I drive in on a lot on this podcast, because accountability was the only way that I could change my life. I think accountability is a trajectory changing trait, and that's an important one to gather. So the more you're able to fess up to your own bullshit, the less there will be, and the more peace we could actually attain. But is that something that they actually want? That's something that I question more and more. And when you read things about this, and these are two things that have been going on for years. The Shriners case is from 2024. The Ukraine war is from 2023. And it's still going on. Because we're funding it. But why? Why would we fund it? We all have so much to offer each other. And I think this world in general would be a better place if we could all just help each other out with what we don't got at home. And stop being so greedy with what you do have. And always be grateful for what you got. Always. The threads are linked in the description. Check them out. If you feel like doing your own research and diving into what's going on in the world, it's a scary place to be. The anonymous corners of the internet are always a scary place to be. But you could give me a follow on Twitter at Bump of TTS. You can find me on TikTok at bookmarkswbump. It's not so often that we dive into things like this because they do seem to set me off a little bit. They get my brain ticking in a way to make me wonder what I would have to do to do things the right way. And that's a deep rabbit hole to go down. But the TikTok, not so much. So dive into that. You could also email me at bookmarkswbump@gmail.com. Holler at me if you have a thread you'd like me to go over myself, or just if you need some help with personal training, anything of that nature, feel free to shoot me an email. Always checking to see what everybody's saying. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know how you like my voice. And as always, it's all love. God bless. I always do that.
I'm in that rider. Every time that a car pits midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm in that rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.